Welcome everybody to tonight's regular City Council meeting for April 4th at 7 p.m. Now going to call this meeting to order. Everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please be seated. Okay. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Councilmember Goethals?
Here.
Councilmember Lee?
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Pappen?
Here.
And Mayor Bonilla?
Here. Thank you very much. Due to the health orders in place currently, we're holding meetings remotely. Information on how to provide public comment is explained at the bottom of each public agenda. When public comment is announced for the item you wish to comment on, use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, and you will be called on at the appropriate time. If calling in via telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for that specific item. Okay, moving on. The first category here is ceremonial, and we have 3 ceremonial items here tonight. Let me dig them up here on my desk, which is covered with all manner of things, but the first one is going to be National Poetry Month. And I'm going to do some reading here now, and then I will see if we have somebody to speak on National Poetry Month. Whereas the Academy of American Poets established the month of April as National Poetry Month in 1996, and whereas National Poetry Month seeks to highlight the extraordinary legacy and ongoing achievement of American poets, introduce Americans to the pleasures and benefits of reading poetry, bring poets and poetry to the public in immediate and innovative ways, and make poetry an important part of our children's education. And whereas, as National Poetry Month, under the leadership and direction of the Academy of American Poets, is now the largest literary celebration in the world. And whereas, poetry enhances and enriches the lives of all Americans. And whereas, poetry, as an essential part of the arts and humanities, affects every aspect of life in America today, including education, the economy, and community pride and development. And whereas poetry has produced some of the nation's leading creative artists and has inspired other artists in fields such as music, theater, film, dance, and the visual arts. And now, therefore, I, Rick Bonilla, Mayor of the City of San Mateo, do hereby proclaim April 1st through April 30th National Poetry Month. Be it further resolved, I call upon public officials, educators, librarians, and all the people of San Mateo to observe this month, to celebrate the cultural richness of our community has to offer, and to recognize the important role poetry in creating and sustaining this great nation with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs. Signed, Rick Bonilla, Mayor of San Mateo, on this day, April 4th. I think, though, we have somebody here to speak on this item tonight. Eileen Casaneto.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bonilla, Deputy Mayor Papan, honorable council members, City of San Mateo staff, and community members. I'm very honored to be here to accept the proclamation of National Poetry Month as Poet Laureate of San Mateo County and as a resident of our great city. I'm very grateful for your support of poetry and the arts, which is evident in the way that San Mateo is thriving with culture and possibility. On Friday, the city's main library will be hosting a reading and book sale featuring poets from all around the county with the support of Mayor Bonilla. Poetry has been an incredible community builder, especially during the pandemic. I've curated a number of community poems, which also included lines by Deputy Mayor Papan. Tonight, I wish to share a poem that I wrote, which was commissioned by San Mateo County Health to honor all first responders and the family and loved ones of those we lost to COVID-19. Take heart. Take heart from a hummingbird, a handful of earth. See how memory bears fruit to carry history, healing, offspring. Listen for sounds gently rising above the hum and din. the prayers of one so far from home and kin. Say you remembered to put out feeders, withhold water from inflorescent tomcat clovers. Say you are here in lieu of flowers. What did you lose the year of our sheltering? Whom do you honor with the hope you bring? Take heart, listen. Sounds of kindness are bouncing off hard surfaces. Praise bedside care and all its auspices. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Castaneda. Really, truly appreciate that bit of art that you brought to our meeting for this moment. Thank you very much. Now we will move on to the next item on our ceremonial calendar, which is Dispatch Appreciation Week. And I will read this proclamation before we allow our speaker tonight to speak on this. Whereas Dispatch Appreciation Week, known nationally as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, recognizes public safety telecommunicators of the city of San Mateo who have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas dispatch professionals nationwide handle a myriad of life and death emergencies while remaining level-headed and mission-focused. And whereas telecommunicators dedicate countless hours of service, assisting police, officers, and firefighters, and playing a vital role in navigating emergency situations to a safe conclusion. And whereas our telecommunications professionals routinely demonstrate the importance of quality 911 as they coordinate emergency services efficiently, ensure the health and safety of residents, and serve as the first and most critical contact to citizens in crisis. And whereas this week, we honor and thank telecommunicators who continue to serve in this demanding profession. And now therefore be it resolved, the City of San Mateo, City Council of the City of San Mateo hereby recognizes the week of April 10th through April 16th, 2022 as Dispatch Appreciation Week in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Dated today, April 4th, signed by the Mayor, Rick Bonilla. Now, I believe we have somebody here to speak on this, Chief Barberini and maybe somebody else.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to thank our dispatch center and our dispatchers for what they do every day. While it's their special week, we're grateful for them every day. They do take multitasking to a completely different level that I think would amaze most people if they saw what they actually did on a day-to-day basis. And they are the true first responders. They serve as a lifeline to not only our officers in the field, but to all of our residents. Marie Silva manages our dispatch center and does a fantastic job. I'd like to turn it over to her quickly for a few words, but thank you for the time to recognize these important people.
Thank you, Chief. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and Chief Barberini for the acknowledgement of our phenomenal dispatchers who are truly selfless in their pursuit as 911 professionals. They are the lifeline for the public and officers 24 hours, 7 days a week, providing exceptional service to the community of San Mateo. Thank you again for the acknowledgement. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Okay, that being that, we shall move on to the third ceremonial item, which is recognition of Fair Housing Month. And I have another recognition to read for us. Whereas adequate housing is a basic need and right of all people. And whereas this year we celebrate the 54th anniversary of the enactment of the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968, which states that discrimination in the sale and rental of housing is illegal when based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And whereas the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988 extends fair housing rights on the basis of familial status to families with children and on the basis of handicapped to disabled persons. And whereas California statutes additionally protect citizens on the basis of age, marital status, sexual orientation, gender identity, and source of income, and California celebrates the 62nd anniversary of the Fair Employment and Housing Act. And whereas the City of San Mateo supports fair housing efforts to eliminate discrimination in housing and recognizes the benefits of Project Sentinel to educate home seekers, apartment managers, and education owners on federal and state housing laws, and to investigate complaints of illegal housing discrimination in San Mateo. And whereas In order to heighten public awareness, the City of San Mateo wishes to focus public attention on April as Fair Housing Month. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Rick Bonilla, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2022 as Fair Housing Month, and do encourage all residents and community organizations to celebrate the value of harmonious and diverse communities of color and to support the goal of equal housing opportunity for all people. Also dated today, April 4th, signed by the Mayor, Rick Bonilla. Thank you very much. We will now move on to item. We're actually going to move on to the consent calendar.
I think we have, did we have somebody from the public that was going to speak?
I'm sorry. Yes, we do. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. What would I do without you? We do have Nicole Garcia. Thank you, Nicole.
Actually, Nicole is the contact person for Project Sentinel. I'm the executive director, so I thought I would step in and attend tonight. And I just wanted to thank you, Mayor Bonilla and Deputy Mayor Papan and council members as well for the acknowledgement and proclaiming Fair Housing Month for April. It's our privilege to serve the community in San Mateo County, and Project Sentinel started out primarily in the arena of fair housing with just 2 people and 1 office. And we are now 7 offices in 5 counties and 42 people strong, doing this work in the community to ensure and remove barriers to fair housing for all. Again, I thank you, Mayor and the City of San Mateo, for making this proclamation and acknowledging Project Sentinel in your remarks. Thank you so much.
I want to thank you very much. Who would have thought there's so much work to do on these subjects in this county? Thank you for all of your work. Appreciate it. Now we'll move on to the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, could you please read the consent calendar?
Certainly. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Item number 4, City Council meeting minutes approval. Item number 5, ordinance adoption, disposable food serviceware code amendment. Item 6, remote teleconference City Council and Commission meetings reauthorization. Item 7, Delaware Street Relief Sewer and Underground Flow Equalization System intra-agency amendment. Item 8 has been pulled by staff and will come back to a future meeting, and that item was Dale Avenue Pumping Station upgrade contingency increase. Item 9, wastewater treatment plant SCADA monitoring and upgrade agreement. Item 10, downtown San Mateo grade separations project grant funding. Item 11, citywide operations management system purchase agreement. Item 12, Service Employees International Union, SEIU, Local 521 Maintenance Unit, Memorandum of Understanding Amendment. Item 13, San Mateo Police Sergeants Association, Memorandum of Understanding Amendment. Item 14, Local Agency Investment Fund, Investment Authorization. Item 15, Fiscal Year 2020-21 Single Audit Acceptance. Item 16, School Crossing Guards 2022-23 Agreement. Item 17, 330 Villa Terrace, Property Owner Appeal of Relocation Benefits. Item 18, Congressionally Directed Spending Project Request, Letters of Support. Item 19, US 101 State Route 92 Area Improvement and Multimodal Project, Letters of Support. Multimodal Project. Item 20, Board and Commission Appointment Subcommittee, Senior Citizens Commission. Item 21, City Council Strategic Plan Adoption. And item 22, Water Conservation Month and Wyland Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation Resolution.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk, for reading the consent calendar. It is now time to ask council members, for anybody who wishes to pull an item for discussion. I see a hand raised by Deputy Mayor Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to pull item 22, water conservation.
Thank you. Thank you. If you didn't, I was going to, so you're right on top of it. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no members of council, I will see if there's any member of the public who wishes to pull any item for discussion.
I have no hands raised.
With no hands raised, then I will close that request time and I'll bring it back to the council. We will ask for a motion to approve all except this item 22. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, can you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Goethals.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pappen.
Yes.
Mayor Bonilla.
Yes.
Okay, that carries 5-0, 5-0.
And that said, Deputy Mayor Pappen, you're on with the item.
Thank you, Mayor. Just pulling this to highlight it, not for any other reason. And highlight it we must. We just found out that our snowpack is 38% of normal. This is the third year of a drought. We're in some deep trouble. So I'm really appreciative that we are declaring April Water Conservation Month, and our city's going to be doing a lot of great stuff, both with seminars. We'll have stuff available on our website, lots of information about conserving water in gardens and low flush toilets, washing machines that are water have low water flow to them. You can get a water barrel. The city will subsidize some of the expense of that, as will the City and County Association of Governments. So there's lots of tools for us out there. Needless to say that this month will just be the first as it relates to water conservation. We're in for a rough road. We didn't have, I think they call it, we didn't have a March miracle. And April's not looking much better. So onward we go, but I'm really proud that the city is adopting this resolution and has so many accompanying programs and portals for information so that we can all do our part in what is going to be a pretty rough ride. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to pull it and just make some comments and highlight the importance of the resolution we're about to adopt.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Pappen. I wanted to also, I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution because I think it's really important for people to hear the details and understand how critical this is. We are in a tough way regarding water. So this is the resolution proclaiming the month of April as Water Conservation Month and supporting the Wyland Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. Whereas, according to the California Department of Water Resources, 2021 was the second driest year in California since 1924. Whereas 2022 may be the driest year on record in the history of the state of California. And whereas with the increasing temperatures and prolonged droughts becoming more frequent due largely to climate change, traditional supplies of water may be diminished permanently. And whereas there are numerous tools, reimbursements, and rebates available to local and regional water agencies supporting water conservation by residents and businesses alike. And whereas immediate action by local consumers is necessary to reduce water use and preserve supplies through the summer and fall. And whereas the City of San Mateo will continue encouraging reducing residential consumption of water and energy and to inspire its residents to care for our natural resources. And whereas cities can engage in efforts to inspire their own communities as well as their neighboring cities to become better environmental stewards. And whereas the 11th Annual National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation presented by the Wyland Foundation and support from Toyota, the US EPA Water Service, WaterSense, the Toro Company, and the National League of Cities is a nonprofit challenge to residents to encourage pollution reduction and smart water use. And whereas with the encouragement of their mayors, residents may register their participation in their city's challenge online by making simple pledges to decrease their water use and to reduce pollution for the period of 1 year, thereby assisting their cities to apply state and federal water conservation strategies and to target mandated reductions. And whereas from April 1st through 30th, 2022, the City of San Mateo wishes to inspire its residents and its neighboring communities to take the Wyland Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation by making a series of online pledges at mywaterpledge.com. That's mywaterpledge.com to reduce their impact on the environment and to see immediate savings in their water, trash, and electricity bills. Residents will further be provided with tools to take specific measurable actions throughout the year to improve the sustainable use of natural resources. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of San Mateo hereby resolves that 1, the City Council proclaims April 2022 Water Conservation Month. 2, San Mateo Council supports the Wyland Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. 3, City of San Mateo will work with local and regional partners to promote water conservation and connect residents and businesses to the many available rebates and resources to reduce water consumption in their homes, businesses, and landscaping throughout the month of April. And the city will use communication and outreach strategies to encourage San Mateo residents to take the conservation challenge throughout the program, April, all through the month. And I want to add, I took one big step myself not too long ago. I had a low flow toilet installed, 0.8 gallons per flush. It works perfectly. The former president was way off on the status of how low flow toilets work when he said you have to flush them 10 times. Not so. They work very well. I recommend it, along with all the other remedies that have been proposed here. Thank you all very much for listening to that. And with that, we will move on, I believe, to the next.
May I move to adopt the resolution?
Yes, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Goethals.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pappen.
Yes.
And Mayor Bonilla.
Yes, thank you very much. So now we move on to public comment. Public comment is the time for members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda, tonight's agenda, may address the City Council at this time. State law prevents council from taking action on any matter not on the agenda. And since these items are not on the agenda, we will not be taking action. However, your comments may be referenced or referred to staff for follow-up. Public comment is limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, an opportunity for additional public comment may be provided later in the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any hands raised for public comment?
I see 2 hands raised. The first one is Lori Watanuki.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Ms. Watanuki.
Go ahead.
Lori, we can't hear you.
Good evening, Mayor Bonilla and members of the City Council. My name is Lori Watanuki. I wanted to speak on the grade separations, which was item number 10. I didn't realize that this was not in new business, but it is of importance that I wanted to speak on this item. If 6th grade separations are being proposed from 1st to 9th Avenue, the most of any city in the corridor, will you do any EIR to analyze the impacts to the central, north central neighborhoods at the 3rd Avenue interchange in this area? How do you propose vehicles, bicyclists, and residents to get to the downtown during this 2-year period during construction with 5 grade crossings closed? Can non-local traffic use Interstate 92 to El Camino to the downtown and back on the west side of the railroads versus cutting through 101 through Humboldt to 9th and back? There will be much non-residential traffic cutting through with only the 9th Avenue grade crossing open in our neighborhood for 2 years. In figure 2, it did not label the daily crossings at the other 8 Caltrain crossings, with the exception of Peninsula Avenue, which makes a total of 9 crossings. In the future, can you label these crossings individually? And can the city confirm that the city will have a grade separation at Peninsula Avenue, which has the highest traffic volume in San Mateo? How will traffic calming be funded for the central and north central neighborhoods to reduce the traffic impacts of 6th grade separations being funneled to one exit at 4th Avenue? This area is called the Equity Priority Community, which will incur significant impacts. We will need pedestrian and bicycle safety features included with grade separations. With 6 crossings, there will be more traffic through 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 9th at Humboldt and Delaware during peak hours. And it looks like 9th Avenue has as much traffic as 3rd Avenue in figure 2. We're not interested in street widening on the east side to add more traffic lanes on our neighborhood streets. And how can we be ensured that additional lanes will not be added, generating more pollution, noise with these grade separations? We would like to see an underground tunnel explored through the downtown from 1st to 5th Avenue crossings. And I will turn these comments in for the record and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Ms. Watanuki, for all of your questions, which we will not be able to respond to tonight, but I believe you can reach out to staff and they will seek to respond to your questions. Your comments were well heard, so thank you very much. We will now move on to the next public commenter. Lindsay, I don't want to mispronounce your last name. Please go ahead and unmute yourself for comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Carol Steinfeld is next. I apologize. Carol Steinfeld, please go ahead. Carol, unmute yourself, please. Carol, go ahead.
I'm Carol, the co-chair of the Water Committee of Sierra Club's Loma Prieta chapter. That's the chapter covering our city. And just adding to the water conversation for the previous item, I don't know if there was going to be public comment. Not that it apparently needed it, but the water challenge is really great. I'm glad you guys adopted that. 0.8 gallon flush toilets are great too, but we need to do more to systematize sustainable water use. Our region has to be more self-sufficient for water. The SFPUC water dependence situation comes with a lot of strings, and there are a lot of other issues brewing. It's taken me 2 years just to wrap my mind around some of it and some of the background issues. I really urge you to drop in on a BOSCA meeting. You might find that interesting. So our chapter is about to promote a model water ordinance for new development. It's an adaptation of one now that's being promoted by Valley Water in the South Bay. And I just wanted you to know that, and we'll send that to you when we feel it's ready for implementation. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And next we have Lindsay. Please go ahead.
Hi there, Mayor Bonilla. Yeah, my last name is pronounced Reich.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good evening to everyone. I wanted to first introduce myself. I'm the president and CEO of Warm Water Wellness, a recently created nonprofit. With the our nonprofit has 501c3 status pending, and we formed with the intention of advocating for warm water therapy resources on the peninsula. In response, the creation of our organization is in response to the closing of the Nicholson Therapy Pool at the Mills Health Center in San Mateo. And I do want to acknowledge and thank Mayor Bonilla, Deputy Mayor Pappen, Council Members Rodriguez and Goethals. We've had some correspondence with you and phone calls over the course of our fight to reopen the therapy pool. And I do appreciate the guidance that you've offered and the support so far. I know there have been several long conversations, and Mayor Bonilla, we really appreciated the email that you recently sent Jane Stahl, our secretary. I really would like to encourage you to agendize on your next at your next meeting. We would love for you to pass a resolution supporting the reopening of the Nicholson Therapy Pool. We currently have the San Mateo County recently passed a resolution. I don't know if you maybe perhaps saw an article about that in the paper recently. In addition, the Sequoia Healthcare District passed a similar resolution, and we have incredible support over the past year. We've gotten a lot of support from the mayor of Half Moon Bay, the mayor of Millbrae, and the mayor of Burlingame. So we've been gathering allies, and we have over 4,500 signatures on a change.org petition that I started almost a year ago. And yeah, it's been 2 years that so many hundreds of members of our community and thousands of future mobility impaired members, not just of San Mateo, of the entire Bay Area. I mean, this resource is a gem. It is unique, and so many people are suffering without access. I was a patron for over 20 years. My partner has a spinal cord injury. He has gone from being independent, being able to walk with 2 canes down the hall and scoot around town. He now is basically homebound all the time, it takes him a half an hour to get in and out of bed. He's lost the dexterity to eat independently. It's a struggle. his quality of life has declined, as have so many other mobility impaired individuals in our community, including special needs children. It's really hit the special needs children hard as well. So anything you could do to support us would be much appreciated.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask Lindsay to contact me offline, and
Yes.
also at the end of the meeting, Mr. Mayor, during reports and announcements, I'd like to address the idea of at a future meeting taking up that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We have one more speaker, and that would be Ryan Motashemi.
Good evening, City Council, San Mateo City Council, Honorable Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight at public comment. A brief comment on Lindsay's earlier public comment. That was certainly very moving, hearing about your lived experience and that of your partner, and how that the closure of this facility has impacted you and countless others. So it was certainly distressing to hear about the closure, and I do certainly hope to see, action taken in the future on that. Regarding grade separations, something that I, have been thinking about and looking at is like, how can we do these projects faster in a way that provides nearer term results and improvements for the city of San Mateo and cities up and down the peninsula. And this is in my capacity as a transit advocate who understands the impact that increased levels of service on Caltrain are going to have in the future on vehicle traffic and gate downtimes, and pedestrian and bicyclist safety. So I would encourage the city, as it's going through this process, and we know like the 25th Avenue grade separation, it was great, but it took a very long time to happen. As we're going through this process, to take opportunities to identify flexibility in design guidelines to make it so that we can design a cheaper project that is still beautiful and amazing and looks great and serves its purpose well, but that is done in a way like in places across the world that are innovative with their designs in such a way that they can do these projects more cheaply and effectively and faster. Along those lines, I also appreciate Ms. Watanuki's comment on understanding how we can plan for a more sustainable city after these projects are done. So an understanding of what the streetscape will look like, how many lanes of traffic it has, will be important. And I would certainly support fewer lanes of vehicle traffic after these projects are completed. I would put a word of caution on tunnels, though. I think that the experience of cities up and down the peninsula regarding tunnels has proven that it might not be the wisest idea to go about including that as an option from the perspective of it will increase the timeline of the project and make it so that we might never actually get a grade separation done if we're trying to just do a tunnel. And the experiences of cities up and down the peninsula are showing that. I think you should all look at the renderings of these beautiful aerial structures that Montreal is doing right now for some of their train projects. It's actually absolutely stunning, and I think would work very well in the urban landscape of downtown San Mateo. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. And I see we have another, Nicole Gehring.
Mr. Mayor, can I suggest that we not take any more hands after this?
Yes, certainly. Have we gone over time?
Good evening, Mayor Bonilla and members of the San Mateo City Council. Nicole Gehring with Associated and Contractors. Thank you for your project that you're planning to do, your grade separation. We are a construction trade association. I've been doing projects throughout the Bay Area for over 2.5 decades, and we have a diverse group of apprenticeship programs and apprenticeship participants, and we want to be a part of the project. We know that you're applying for a federal grant, and we just want you to look into the federal code of regulations if you're going to put a project labor agreement into place. I don't want that to inhibit you from getting federal funds. There was a project in Berkeley where they had to exempt the PLA due to the federal grant they were applying for in regards to the competition and local hire regulations. So I want to make sure that you take a look at that closely before you encumber the project with the project labor agreement. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for those comments. That will be the end of public comment. And we're going to now bring it back to the council to proceed on the agenda. Item 23, ordinance introduction, sign code amendment. And I believe we have the city attorney and another two city attorneys, Prasanna Rasai and Gabrielle Whelan, to speak with us about that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Assistant City Attorney Gabrielle Whelan. And Gabrielle, go ahead and take it away.
All right. It looks like I succeeded in uploading my nice background, but it looks like I obliterated myself. So I'm going to start with the presentation, and then I'll undo the background after the presentation.
We cannot see the presentation right now.
Yeah, I'm going to share it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Can you see it now?
No, we can't.
Okay.
We see it as one of the slides on the screen here, I think, or that's just you.
Okay, I'll keep working on this.
Perhaps if the city clerk is able to pull up that presentation.
Yes, we're working on that right now.
Thank you.
Stand by.
Good evening. If you give us just a moment, Gabrielle, we can have that pulled up for you.
Okay, and I'm trying also in the meantime. Can the council see this slideshow now?
We can see. You're not, there you are. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. So I am Gabrielle Whelan. I'm an assistant city attorney, and I am here to present tonight regarding some minor proposed amendments to the sign ordinance. The sign ordinance was first adopted in 2010. And over the years, we've noticed a few places where it would benefit from an update. And so we're bringing those to you tonight in a group. And the edits really fall into 4 categories. The first is to update the definitions and make sure that we're using terms consistently and removing definitions that aren't used in the body of the ordinance. And the second category is to revise the provisions that relate to signs leaned against vehicles within public right-of-way. The third category is to clarify tables that establish minimum and maximum sizes for signage in multi-tenant buildings. And that is not to change the regulations, but to add a few words to the tables to make it clearer to applicants what is allowed in the city. And the fourth category involves amending the ordinance to state that the city's prohibitions and regulations regarding signs apply to signs located within the public right-of-way, as well as signs that are located on other public property. And so in a nutshell, these edits are intended as a minor cleanup and not a wholesale revision of the city sign code. They're intended to clarify the city's intent with regard to signage in the city. So as I mentioned, one of the proposed revisions is to add public right-of-way to the areas where the city's sign restrictions and enforcement provisions apply. The ordinance had previously defined public property to exclude public right-of-way. However, the city's intention was to regulate signage that's located in public right-of-way as well. And so to make that intention clear, we have proposed the edits that are shown in the orange box on this slide. And then the next category of regulations that I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper on is restrictions related to signs on vehicles that are parked within the public right-of-way. And the proposed amendment is intended to make it clear that signs cannot be leaned against vehicles within the public right-of-way. However, signs can be affixed to vehicles that are located in the public right-of-way. And the intent behind that regulation is to prevent signage from blowing into the public right-of-way and creating a safety problem. And finally, there are some tables in the sign ordinance that set forth the size and dimensions of signage on multi-tenant buildings. And the allowable signage is calculated based on the street frontage. However, there is a hard minimum of either 30 or 50 square feet, depending on what zoning district you're in, and a hard maximum of 300 square feet. And so we've added some wording to those tables to make that clear, because the planning division has experienced a number of questions on that issue since the ordinance was first adopted in 2010. So that is a summary of the changes that are proposed for your consideration. If the City Council introduces the sign ordinance amendments this evening, we will schedule the sign ordinance amendment for adoption at the April 18th City Council meeting. And the ordinance would then take effect 30 days after its adoption, which would bring us to May 18th. And thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you very much, Gabrielle. Council members, do we have questions? And I think I'm seeing no hands raised. And that's steady. So let's move on to public comment. Can we open public comment? And let me see.
There are no hands raised at this time.
No hands raised there. We will now close public comment. Bring it back to the council for whatever your pleasure may be with this. Please provide. We need, this is an action item. I believe it requires a motion.
Yes.
I'll move that we adopt the amendments. If there's anyone else have any discussion, I'm ready to move that we adopt them.
Do we have a second?
Let's second it.
Motion and second. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll call for it?
Councilmember Goethals?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pappen?
Yes.
And Mayor Bonilla?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. And with that, we now move on to the final item on tonight's agenda, which is item 24, Clean Water Program costs and the state revolving loan financing. We have the Finance Director, Mr. Rich Lee, on hand to present.
Good evening, Mayor Bonilla, members of the council. Rich Lee, the city's finance director. I have a brief presentation regarding this item. So a quick background, going back to 2009 when the city received the cease and desist letter from the state. In 2015, the city approved the Clean Water Program to address the issues identified in the cease and desist letter. 2019, the city issued its first debt as a part of the plan of finance for the Clean Water Program. There was $270 million in wastewater revenue bonds that were issued. In 2021, we closed loans with the Environmental Protection Agency through its WIFIA program, as well as low interest loans to take advantage of the low interest rate environment that we find ourselves in. And in 2022, this item before you this evening is the loan agreement with the state for SRF loans. This is the sources and uses of funds. So at the top essentially is our plan to finance, or where we plan to get the money from. The item before you again is the SRF loan on the third line under sources. For City of San Mateo, $103 million. Its share of the loan, $137 million in total, excluding capitalized interest. This chart should look fairly familiar, albeit a little bit different from the study session from earlier this evening. The stacked bars are the debt service payments from now until the year 2056. Each portion of the bar representing a distinct and separate debt that the city has to repay. The line going from left to right, that's associated with the secondary axis on the right, that is our debt service coverage ratio. That is the ratio between our net surplus and the sewer enterprise fund compared to our annual debt service each year. The way that the agreement structure works is that there is a loan agreement between the state of California and the San Mateo Foster City Public Financing Authority. Then there are separate financing agreements between each member agency of the Public Financing Authority. So your colleagues in the City of Foster City are also approving a similar item this evening. So the recommendation this evening is to adopt a resolution to approve documents and actions relating to a San Mateo Foster City Public Financing Authority State Revolving Fund loan. And with that, I welcome any questions from the council.
Thank you very much. Do we members of the council have any questions? Seeing none, I'd like to ask City Manager if he has any comments he'd like to add, because I know that we worked on this right down to the wire.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bonilla. So, yeah, this has been, I've been with the city almost 7 years now, and we've been working on this since before I got here. So it's been a long process. Want to thank the finance department and all of our consultants and attorneys who have helped push this through the finish line. As we discussed earlier in the study session, this is a huge benefit for our ratepayers, and will save significant dollars for this project, and will mean that we will not be looking at the double-digit rate increases that we thought we were going to need without getting this loan. And I know to all the council members at various times throughout this process who have reached out to others to help push this forward. We're grateful for that help. Every little bit helped, and we are very excited to be at this point after a really long process. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open it up for public comment then, if no council members have any questions. Seeing none, can we open it up for public comment, Madam Clerk? Do we have any hands raised? I see none.
There are none raised.
There are none raised. We will now close the public comment and bring it back to the council for any.
I move approval.
Or motion.
I move approval.
There we go.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll, please?
Councilmember Goethals.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pappen.
Yes.
And Mayor Bonilla.
Yes.
That passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving right along. Our next item on the agenda tonight is to ask if there are any reports and announcements. I'm going to ask if any council members have any new topics for the future agenda. I know the council member Goethals already indicated interest in discussing one. Please go ahead.
Yes. So as the speaker mentioned during public comment, the Sequoia Healthcare District has passed a resolution calling for the Mickelson Pool to be reopened. There are quite a few San Mateo residents who feel similarly that the pool should be reopened. And this is something that I feel strongly about. It's something that I have seen family members of mine use. And so to the extent that we too could pass a resolution, I would like to explore that at a future council meeting if anyone else is open to that.
I'd be open to it. Was it the Sequoia Healthcare District or the Peninsula Healthcare District?
Sequoia. Peninsula has not passed it yet, but Sequoia did. So did the county.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I'd be interested. Thank you.
Myself, I'm interested and supportive as well.
I think Councilmember Rodriguez, thumbs up, and me too. So that's 5-0. Let's get it on the agenda. Bring
Excellent.
it in, and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much.
Two other very quick things.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I read a very interesting article in the Mercury News about an assistant city attorney that we love very much. And I'm very excited for her. And I think that in the future, we may be honoring her at a meeting, and perhaps now is not the right time to honor her, but I think that it's very exciting. I'm very happy for Gabrielle.
Thank you very much.
The last thing that I wanted to mention was obviously we have Maureen Frescott in our hearts, and we're thinking about her tonight. And I believe we're going to adjourn tonight in honor of Andy. So I'm thinking about him very much.
Thank
Those
you.
are my thoughts.
Before we close, I wanted to suggest that we do a ceremonial item to honor our Muslim community and acknowledge the holy month of Ramadan.
Sounds good to me. Anybody else? Okay, I have one other. I'd like to see if the council may be interested in getting a presentation from One Shoreline. And that's because I know that sea level rise is increasingly becoming an issue. And I believe Deputy Mayor Pappen knows all about this, that One Shoreline, I think, is making some presentations to city councils about what the outlook is, what the group is doing on our behalf to deal with what could be a disastrous sea level rise outcome if we don't become proactive. And so I'd like to see if any council members are in support of asking that we get a presentation from One Shoreline.
Is that secret organization that Diane is a part of?
I
would love to get a presentation from them. That sounds fantastic. I am thrilled that we have representation on that board. And I've been hearing things about the different strategies that we have for revenue generation. And I'd love to hear Diane's thoughts and hear from One Shoreline.
I think we can make that happen. Things aren't quite fully formulated, might be just a tad premature, but I will make sure that the timing happens so that you're fully informed with the presentation. I think that'd be great. Thank you so much for the interest.
Thank you. Other council members?
Thumbs
up, head nod, anything?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, thumb up. Councilmember Lee, yes. Okay, good. So that's 5-0 too. Then Diane, I think that we would like to request a presentation. So, thank you. In that, I believe, unless we have any reports or comments from staff members tonight, yes, count that.
I just wanted to make a couple remarks about Andy Kresge, Maureen Frescott's husband, who passed away unexpectedly. I believe it was a week ago Sunday. So I don't know, I'm sure we all knew Andy to varying degrees, but my impressions of him were always that he was rock solid, and he did a lot of good in the world. He sat on the board of the Carl and Celia Berta Gellert Foundation for many, many years, doling out lots of money to lots of good causes in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I thank Andy for his service. I know he was a very devoted husband to Maureen, and our thoughts, obviously, I'm sure, are with Maureen at this time and the rest of the Kresge family. We're sending them strength and fortitude during what is a pretty difficult time. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you to Deputy Mayor. I also have a few words that I'm going to be reading for us here.
I just want to add to Diane that he was a good human being, a fabulous support to our former mayor, and an excellent first gentleman of San Mateo.
Thank you very much. So now I'll read the prepared statements that were given. Andy Kresge passed away peacefully on March 28th at his 82nd birthday. He is survived by his devoted wife of 6 years, Maureen Fresket. Andy was a constant source of strength, support, and inspiration to all whose lives he touched. He was outgoing, loved to socialize, and appeared at many past city council functions to support his wife, Maureen. He was born and raised in San Francisco. Following college, he worked for Sunstream Homes Standard Building Company as a draftsman and architect and ended his successful career as president of the company. Retiring in 1992, Andy gave back to the community and served on numerous boards. He was an inspiration to all who knew him and will be sorely missed. So I am going to second Deputy Mayor's motion to adjourn in his honor, as well as Councilmember Gothel's adjourn in his honor. And so if everybody's ready, I think this will be the time to adjourn in his honor. We'll have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you all. Have a good night. Meeting is adjourned.